Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this chat, I'd like to talk about propaganda and how fully prepared the globalists are to lose vast sums of money on pushing this propaganda at us, as long as it's in aid of and furthers, as they would see it, the implementation of the globalist project. They're there to fool us and deceive us and to soften us up for the globalist project, where you'll own nothing and have nothing but be happy. So let's have a look at some of this propaganda. Now, there was a program, and I won't mention its name. You can do your own research on this, but it was available on one of the left-wing media outlets in Australia and elsewhere. But it's a show, a TV show or a mini-series, I suppose, that was produced by an all-women production crew, writing crew, directing crew, and some were English and from England, and then black women from various parts of Africa and so on. So I'm not sure majority were lesbians, but they'd be very close to half. They're all the gender studies types, angry, hate men, particularly hate white men, that sort of thing. So this series was there's a coloured woman in the lead role, and then the second role is a coloured woman. Or there's some black men in the show, and they all accept that they're morally inferior to women, and while some of them may be senior in sort of managerial terms in the this is meant to be a police office or a police force, whereas some of the more senior ones, they still defer to the women as being again morally superior, intellectually superior, and so on. Now there's only one white guy in the whole thing, and he's got he's classic white, the freckles, red hair, the whole nine yards. Pretty sort of he's comes across as gay. I don't know whether he is, but he seems like it. But he's got to play the role where he wants to he only wants to date black chicks, and but he's morally just not up there, and he's a bit of a dummy, and needs to be put in his place by the black women who show him who's boss, and just show him the error of his ways and the error of his thinking. And if he shapes up and accepts his inferiority to them and mends his ways, then maybe they'll give him a date, or have a coffee with him or something like that. So now the other white men in the show are all evil in a caricature sense. That I mean, you wouldn't find anyone this evil, I don't think, in real life. If you did, they'd be so rare. But they're all in caricature. They're all evil. They're pedophiles. They're oppressors of women. They don't respect women, and they even think, wait for this, they even think they're superior to women. So those are the white guys in there, and there are some bad black people. There's no bad black women. All the black women are good, but there's one bad black guy there, and he sort of can have he's sort of a half rapist, really. He deceives women into having sex with him, and so that he's a kind of a rapist, and so that's it. So that's pretty much the show. And there are things like, if a man comes too close to a woman to say something, then he's obviously bad. He's not showing proper respect, so she snaps out an order and he backs off quickly because he knows his damn place in this new world order. And I mean, you couldn't get as much bullshit. It's an imaginary world that maybe these radical lesbian feminists and gender studies types, and the NGO types and so on, maybe it's an imaginary world that they wish existed. And as one of them that was being interviewed by Progress, well, men have been in charge for thousands of years. Now it's our turn, and we have to now be in charge to redress that imbalance, and so on. So they talk like they're children, and like none of them ever had to take responsibility for anything or face consequences for failure, things like that. So they've maintained that childish state. Who've never really had to take responsibility for anything. And so this is the base of the show. But there are so many shows sort of like that or along those lines now that we sort of can question, whether it be Hollywood movies or we can sort of question why is this even allowed? There was a time when any show being produced had to at least hold a chance of making money and producing a return, creating a return, financial return for the makers. Otherwise, they just plain wouldn't do it. But that's, or no TV station would handle it unless the show was good enough to attract advertisers, which in turn could pay the bills for the TV station, or any other form of media for that matter. But no, that's changed. That's not the case anymore. And there are now so many organisations that where their only role is to churn out propaganda nonsense such as that, whether it be on the news or current affairs or alleged entertainment. They're just out there. There are so many of them. It could be even children's wildlife documentary, alleged entertainment. They're just out there. There are so many of them. It could be even children's wildlife documentaries. These sort of things. It's all focused now on propaganda and again trying to undermine and destroy the confidence in Western societies and destroy families and soften us all up for the globalist project. And this propaganda that I was just referring to is no different. But what's the thing? No organisation will willingly go out and say, I want to lose money. They just plain won't do it. So why are they doing this, and how are they prepared to do it again and again and again? And now in some of these Hollywood, the Ghostbusters madness with that all-female cast and so on. Some of these movies are losing serious money, and the makers and the studios knew it. They knew that the chance of making money was very slim, and that the chances of losing money, and lots of it, were very high. But they still went and did it. They still went ahead anyway and did it. Why were a bunch of women, again, almost majority lesbian, handed the money and the time and the resources to go and do this crazy show about the moral superiority of black women? Why would they do that? It's not well scripted. It's not well acted. It's the plot's piss weak. It's weak. It's generally no good. So. But still, it got funded. Still, it got turned into a finished product. Still, it was sent out to the media outlets of the world. But when you look a bit closer at the economics of it, you'll find that a lot of the money through NGOs. So there's a lot of backdoor financing, and governments are giving accelerated write-offs. So governments that are again, nearly all Western governments controlled by the globalist cabal now are being given. Are giving accelerated tax write-offs for the studios. So say, I don't know whether the Ghostbusters was one of these, so I mentioned only as a wider or general illustration, but in these movies generally, what's happening is they're being given accelerated write-offs. So instead of taking a loss, so they put up, for example, $100 million to make the movie, then the government is saying, well, we'll let you write off $200 million. So really they don't lose anything out of this. So they can come out square on it, or even given the additional write-offs or accelerated write-offs, they can possibly defray some of the profits they made on other movies that people did want to watch and did come and see. So there's that. The second aspect is that a lot of the cash that's being put up is being funneled through NGOs. NGOs are supposed to be charities in effect, and so they don't have to pay tax. But if they do have a theoretical profit, they have to disperse it around to wherever, just so they don't have it on their books. So then they don't pay any tax and they can maintain a tax-free status. So they send the money into various arts organisations, which then go and make these crappy propaganda TV shows. So there's a whole movement of money going around, which relieves the TV studios and the movie studios of any requirement to make a profit. So their activities can be turned fully to making propaganda without the commercial requirements of making a buck in the process. So that's part of it. The other side is, say, if you look at the big media organisations, they're all owned by whether it's big banks or big technology companies or whatever. So they're all owned by organisations that are making handsome profits elsewhere. So they can run these media TV stations. They can run at a huge loss, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they do it without blinking an eye, because that loss is then used to write off profits in other areas. And if they've got some backdoor gig of money laundering NGO funds, or again getting accelerated tax write-offs, effectively kickbacks from the government or protection from the government, which is controlled by the globalists anyway, and it isn't really costing them anything. In fact, ultimately the cost is being absorbed into by the taxpayers in effect with this. So that allows them to act with impunity when it comes to having to recognise the need to make a profit, because they've still got to pay staff and pay people to do everything. But if they also had to make a profit while doing that, then they just couldn't do it. So nearly all the propaganda you see, if not all of it, but certainly nearly all of it you see, is indirectly being funded by the taxpayer through tax-free organisations such as NGOs, and giving special tax breaks and benefits and so on to the bigger commercial firms, and through in, say, a multinational conglomerate. So that's a little bit of understanding into some of the propaganda that's around and how it's economically able to function. You've been with Tassus today.